welcome to Gussets. My lovely assistant Dokarisu is going to help us learn how to pick up the gussets of a sock. At this point you should be at about, you've turned your heel, you've done the tube, you should be fairly comfortable working around in the double pointed needles. You will have just finished a purl row. First thing you're going to do, you're going to knit straight back across the needle, just straight knit stitches. Now you can do this one of two ways. You can do this with a crochet hook, or you can do this with a knitting needle. And I'm going to show you both ways. If you happen to have a crochet hook about the right size, it will make things a lot easier. So once you have finished with your knit back row, I'm going to show you first with the knitting needles, and then I'm going to show you, once I pick up the stitch I just dropped, with the crochet hook. So, with the knitting needles, I'm going to swing around so you can really see this. You have right in here, you have holes from where you did that garter stitch. A hole, a hole, a hole, a hole. These holes are your guides. You're going to stick the needle in the hole. You're going to wrap the yarn knitwise. You're going to pull the yarn through knitwise. You're going to go to the next hole. In, around, through, in, around, through, in, around, through, and so forth. Now, if you happen to have a crochet hook at hand, crochet hook, the easier way to do this, you put the crochet hook in, you wrap same way, you can hook it through. Now, for this garter stitch, which has those nice holes, that's not necessary, but for other patterns, you're going to find it's going to be a lot easier to use the crochet hook. Finish up with the knitting needle, in and through, in and through, in and through. Now, things to be aware of at this point, you don't want to have a hole where your stitches are going to meet up at the top of the foot here. So what we're going to do when we get to that point is we're going to pick up an extra stitch, and then we're going to knit it together with the first stitch on the instep, and that's going to close the hole. It's going to make your sock look a little neater, just going to make the sock look better. So I picked up the last of the holes between the garter ridges. I'm going to go right in here. I'm going to pick this up, same way I picked everything else up. I'm going to put it on the instep stitch, on the instep needle, because I'm going to knit it together. Okay. Now, once I've done this, of course, I'm supposed to add needles. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these insteps, which have been sitting on 2 needles, and I'm going to just swing them all over so that they're going to all be on one. Now, you're not going to have this problem if you have 5 double pointed needles. You're only going to have it if you have 4. Just a standard little workaround. And they just slid over. Now, I'm going to take what I just put on there. I'm going to knit it together with the first stitch. And then, because the stitch is going to have a very straight stockinette foot, I'm just going to knit across the instep stitches. And that's all I'm doing until the next one. Is I'm just going to knit these straight across. And then we're going to pick up the gusset on the other side. Now, you're going to stop 1 stitch short of the end, because you're going to do that same little knit 2 together trick. When you get to that, you're going to pick up a little stitch and you're going to knit it together. And again, that's just going to be to close the hole. And it's a good idea, especially if you're having trouble seeing the holes, to count the needles on the stitch, to count the stitches on the needle, so that you can make sure you have the same number on both needles when you pick up the gusset. If it's off by 1, you'll adjust later on. You'll do an extra decrease if you have to. But it's good if you can pick up the right number right away. So again, I've just slipped this one. I'm going to go in here. I'm going to pick up the stitch. I'm going to slide them both onto the working needle here. And then I'm just going to knit 2 together. Closes up the hole. Now, I'm going to go back. I've got my hole, same garter ridge holes right here, right between my garter ridges. Bink, 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 bink. I'm just going to go back to picking those up. And of course, once I do that, I'm going to have the same problem of being out of knitting needles. And I'm going to show you how to adjust for that. What we're going to do is we're going to split the heel stitches in half, and we're going to put those half on one needle, half on the other, and that's going to put the middle of the round right in the middle of the heel, which means if you're going to have any ladders at that point, it's going to be right underneath of your foot. It's going to felt away the first time you wear the sock for a day. You'll never have to worry about them. Make sure you get this last one. You definitely don't want a hole there. Okay, so I'm basically splitting the stitches in half, actually working half onto the needle I just picked everything up on. So. And sliding the other half onto the needle that I picked up the first gusset stitches on. And at this point, you have your gusset. You've picked up your gusset. You're just going to be working around on these stitches, and you're going to be decreasing every other row until it narrows down to the same number of stitches, same 64 you originally cast on. Then you're going to work straight until it's about 2 inches shy of the end of your foot. Then you're going to start decreasing for the toe. That's all there is to the gusset.